Tenza was under that beautiful cherry tree, reflecting why people always tax him with the same things: trash, useless, delinquent, and bum. Maybe that's why he was eating a cupcake that had been left as an offering. Born and raised in the middle of the slums and with parents who didn't even care if this poor boy had any food to eat that day, his only options in life were to steal when he felt hungry. The young man did everything with the exception of killing other people. Not feeling very close to his family, he slept in the open and liked that freedom and being able to sleep when he wanted to. While walking freely around the city, Tenza ended up getting into a fight with 3 guys who called him a street urchin. And to everyone's surprise, he ended up defeating these bullies, one of them even begging him to stop. But the young man did not respect him, and thus delivering his last blow. Shion appeared, saying that enough of all those acts of the boy. Naruga points out to Tenza that it's pointless for them to keep walking along the beach amidst the sand, with so much sun beating down on their heads, and that they probably wouldn't find a sea current that would take them away from this island. Tenza claims he's stupid, and that was the only thing he could think of, since in the forest there would definitely be monsters. When out of nowhere, right there in the water, Yujin, a being considered practically an entity on this island. Tenza wonders if he fell from the sky, since there would be no way he could have appeared there over the water. Such an entity comments on all the uproar that was taking place in the middle of the forest. At the same time, his voice turns male due to his extreme anger and asking if they are responsible for this island becoming chaotic. Tenza doesn't think twice and gives the order for them to flee the Lee. But such an entity appears right in front of him, and with a simple hand movement throws him away. Yujin tries to hit Naruga, who quickly dodges away from such a monster. Delivered, Yujin praises her, saying that she moves very well for a simple human. Tenza takes advantage of such a gap and manages to launch his attack with the blade, hitting Yujin's eyes, but ends up being perplexed since such injuries healed in the same instant. Realizing that his only choice would be to flee, he goes all out on top of this entity to get a gap, leaving Yujin's body in pieces, buying enough time for his escape. But in a matter of seconds, Yujin caught up with his opponent, surprising them a lot. And it was at that moment that the master of Tenza, Shion, appeared, where, after having cut off the head of that monster, started to run for their lives. Naruga thinks it's weird his eyes are cut out, and Tenza says he can move through sound and smell. Already far from the monster, they decide to take some time to catch their breath. Tenza tells Naruga that he owes his life to his master, since he was the one who taught him how to handle the sword. Shion takes advantage of the moment to criticize the movements used by his student. At that moment, Tenza ends up diverting his subject by asking his master what he was doing there. Shion reveals to us that her prisoner tried to seduce her, so she put an end to her, and tried to return to her home, but without great results in getting out of that island. While coming up with a plan to end such an aberration, or even run away from it, Yujin surprises them by appearing in the blink of an eye. Shion quickly pushes his disciple and Naruga away, but ended up being hit in the process. Tenza, realizing that there would be no way to escape, ended up going with everything on top of this monster, that now revealed that his blows are ineffective, since he would have already learned his fighting style. Tenza knows that the correct thing in this situation would be to flee, but with his master now injured and the Naruga paralyzed by fear, her choice was to use her fearsome Temashi Ito temple style technique. That made his movements noticeably faster. After having dodged all the attacks, Yujin reaffirms that he has learned everything, and with a simple finger movement, he causes wounds in Tenza that in such a situation would be mortal. Tenza asks why his master has adopted him, and Shion answers him as follows: "Our job is to take lives, but from now on, I want to be able to help them." While Shion passed his training to the boy Tenza with hard lessons on his techniques, he reveals to us that he didn't even want to be a samurai and decides to give up this stupid process. Since he has always had a difficult life and people have always judged him, Shion accepts that he gives up everything, but only on one condition: that he has to hit him at least one single hit. Very early the next day, Tenza says all this is nonsense and starts walking towards the exit, until Eizen appears, already knowing about the agreement between the boy and Shion, but that he doesn't care about Tenza's choices, but asked him to accompany him on a walk since he woke up very early and there was nothing to do. Eizen takes the boy to the grave of the former master, Shion's salute, and says that just like the Tenza, he was from the rabble who had talent but lacked motivation, and that one day that student left the dojo because he wanted to live his way, and for some time nothing happened. but when testing one of his swords, as usual, he took a position in front of a convict but was unable to execute him since he realized that he was his former disciple. His student had gone through needs and ended up committing some crimes. Curiosity activated, Tenza asks what was his master's reaction. Eizen reveals to us that as expected he fulfilled his obligations and that his student's last words were a big apology. And that from that day forward, Shion has committed himself to helping those in need. Now impacted by this new information, Tenza challenges his master to a fight. He finally manages to understand that his main difficulty is trusting someone, since his master is being the first person to believe in his potential. Tenza notices some symptoms that may signal her life coming to an end, but also an immense heat in her chest related to wanting to protect her companions. Wondering if everyone would die right there, he starts doing his best to get up and falling into a fight with such a freak, buying enough time for his friends to manage to escape. As he took his last breaths, he wondered if he really had the potential, apologizing to his master and wishing Naruga to live. Closed battle, Yujin recognizes that this SIM was a strong enemy. Now far enough away, Shion and Naruga stop running. Her eyes full of tears, he asks the reason they abandoned him, and also stating that he abandoned his disciple. At that moment, Shion surprises her, saying that it is more than that. We are brothers who wanted the same thing. Stated that he gave his life for them to save themselves, and that he would not waste such a sacrifice, but also that it would not come cheap. In her beautiful memoirs, we are shown that after a long training, Tenza finally managed to defeat her master, but that when dealing with her problems with abandonment, he finally decided to stay with his master of his own free will. Thank you so much for making it this far. Don't forget to subscribe to receive more content like this daily, and see you next time.